Today's video, we're going to talk about ROAS versus actual ROAS or target ROAS that you have in your campaigns on Google and Facebook versus the actual ROAS that you're getting. Why you can't rely on Google and Facebook's own data to tell you what your actual ROAS, that is return on the ad spend that you're getting, the amount of sales versus the amount of ad spend that you're spending, why you can't rely on the data the ad platform provides as is. The data in your ad platform is there to optimize your ads with, to see whether one ad works better than another, but is terrible for seeing what your actual ROAS or ROI on your investment on these platforms is. And I'm going to explain exactly why that is on this video by illustrating that through actual numbers from dozens of ad accounts that I have running right now that show you what the actual sales that the ad platform says you're going to get in a bunch of different niche markets and the actual ROAS that you're going to get, and how that varies also based upon regular tracking as well as server-side tracking, which should get you excited about doing server-side tracking. But there's a much better way to scale your ad account and know if you're profitable so that you can scale, which that should always be your goal, is to get to a certain ROI on your starting ad spend so you can spend more. You start out with a budget like 100 a day, make it profitable at a ratio of sales to ad spend that's profitable. Then you try to spend 10, 20, 30 times as much while maintaining that ratio. There's a process that I've put together where I do this routinely, and I'm going to explain what it is on this video as well, but there's key reasons why the ad account is not going to tell you your true ROI, and you can't bank on it to make actual financial decisions on your business, whether you should start scaling now or wait and try to be more efficient with your current ad spend and then scale after. And it comes down to this list of 7 things that I'm going to cover on this particular video. So I'll go through what those things are, as well as the difference in the ROI you're going to get versus the actual ROAS or target ROAS that you set in your ad account by different tracking methods that you can use. Just know, in general, when you're setting up a ad account on Facebook, on Google, or campaigns thereof, and you're setting it up to get a certain target ROAS, that ROAS that you're setting it up to get is not going to be the actual ROAS that you're getting. And you have to understand this in order to make money with ads in a big way, to be able to set your position up to where you are profitable, and then you can start scaling after. All the money is in the scaling part of running your ads. Of course, there's countless accounts where I've started out with a budget of $3,000 a month, and we're now spending $200,000 a month just simply by getting the $3,000 to work, reinvesting our profits again and again into the ad account, and then getting up to that level. Of course, over 7 to 10 years, but nevertheless, your ads are guaranteed to keep making more and more money because you get more data in your ad account. That data is going to tell you what to do next, whether to run this ad more, or this ad, or this demographic, or this demographic, or this keyword, or this keyword, this audience, and you just keep using your data to make more and more money. What I want to do first of all here is explain, at least with when you're talking about Google ads here, and this basically applies one-to-one with Facebook ads as well. I'll speak on that as well. But with Google ads, you got 3 main ways that you could do conversion tracking nowadays with your account. You can do regular client-side tracking. You can do enhanced conversion tracking, which is Google's own brand server-side tracking, technically. You also could do full server-side tracking, which, if you're also wondering what the hell is server-side tracking, so client-side and server-side tracking are terms that I mentioned. Client-side tracking means the user, when they download your website, has to, as your prospective customer, needs to send data to Google on their end from their web browser. Server-side tracking, the data that Google gets as to whether somebody buys or fills out a form or whatever you're tracking, that gets sent to Google by your web hosting provider, essentially, where your website is hosted. And that's more reliable because actual customers will often have browsers that don't send it. There'll be glitches in it. People have ad blockers and so forth, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So server-side tracking is going to get you a lot more data tracked. And of course, like I mentioned on previous videos, the more data you collect and the more accurate it is, the more you're going to make out your ad account. And it's not just a little bit more, it's a ton more. So you absolutely want to have server-side tracking, even though it's kind of expensive to set up. Might cost you $1,000 extra per year to just maintain it and set it up. but it's 100% worth it because you're not going to just make 1,000 more per year. You're going to make 50,000 more per year. At least if you're at a certain level, and I would say if you're doing at least 100 grand a year in sales, you want server-side tracking nowadays because of how impactful it is on your business once you have it. For that matter, regular client-side tracking, on average in our client accounts, we're going to get to where that in itself, by itself, only tracks 50% of the actual sales that we're getting on the so-called first purchase. Forget about any subsequent purchase that they make. It will literally only track half of our purchases. If our Google Ads account says we've sold 5,000 in product, the actual product that we sold is usually on average going to be 1,000. Now that varies though by niche heavily. When I say by niche, what I really mean is by average ticket size. What is the price of your item? The more expensive your item, the more it undercounts your sales. The cheaper your product is, the less the undercounting occurs. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, enhanced conversion tracking, that'll get you more conversion data, but that'll only get you up on average from 50% undercounting to about 42% undercounting, or it counts about 58% of your sales. If you have full server-side tracking, like I mentioned before, which you can set up through, I recommend, by the way, on that, if you have an ad platform like Shopify, use a built-in dedicated plugin for this. Analyzify was the one I like for Shopify. You get one that's made for your website specifically, or if you have a custom website, you can use a state.io account to set up your server-side tracking that way. Just make sure when you do it, you have a competent person. There's a lot of people who say they can do tracking, especially server-side tracking, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. You need to hire somebody, ideally, hopefully, that charges at least 30, 40, 50 bucks an hour, outsource in another country, or a few $100s an hour if you're going to do it domestically. Full server-side tracking, it'll track, or should I say on average, 75% of your sales. You can see there's a massive difference in doing client-side tracking now and server-side tracking as a whole. And there'll be, generally speaking, more to benefit from server-side tracking when you sell something that's more expensive in general. Know those key facts. Now, the reason why the sales are not tracked as much overall, like, people want to believe that Google, when it says you make X, that's what you're making. I've had countless arguments with clients about how, you say you want a 10-to-1 return. And I say, okay, great. Well, that means we need a 5-to-1 return in your ad account to get a 10-to-1. And they're like, no, we need a 10-to-1. And it's like, no, the tracking doesn't track every last sale. No, I really need 10-to-1. And then we end up pissing away all the opportunity that was available to the client because they want, instead of a 10-to-1, they really want a 20-to-1, which that doesn't happen on Google Ads, because if it were that easy to get a return, your competition would have upbid what they're paying for a click, and they would then, as a result, outbid you, and then that return wouldn't be there anymore. There's no free lunch. We actually take where we could have made $1 million a year in profit to making basically nothing because they couldn't get over this one key fact that I'm trying to communicate to you here in this video. There's plenty of reasons why the client-side tracking undercounts and the server-side tracking still undercounts, even though people say it's perfect. It absolutely isn't. It's a hell of a lot better than client-side tracking, but it's not perfect in itself. And those factors are, number one, it doesn't track any repeat customers, of course. Now, this isn't related to the tracking itself, but as it tied to the topic of the video, though, your actual ROAS/ROI should be based upon what is the client value. And the easiest way to do this is to take all the revenue you've ever generated in your company lifetime and divide it by the total customers you ever had. Take that number and divide it by your average transaction size to your website. So what's the average amount that people spend on your website? That's your premium. That's your expected future purchases from the customers that you're getting on a regular basis. In other words, if your ad account says you're making 500, you're probably making 1,000 at the end of the day. And then on top of that, you're probably making another 300 in subsequent purchases. So really what your return is 1,300 when your ad account says 500, because you're going to bank on a certain amount of repeat purchases that are going to come in down the line, which from all our clients where I measured this, the average repeat rate for an e-commerce business at least is like 0.3. For every customer you'll get another 0.3 purchases from every customer. Some that'll go buy 25 times from you, some that'll buy none. That's where it typically averages out. Now, if you've done a great job with an ad campaign where you're running campaigns at your customer list on a regular basis, running customer appreciation promotions and sales and stuff like that, you can get it up to where it's an average of 6 or more. So 0.6, 0.7, something like this, very easily just by doing that one simple thing, so that you can count on another 0.6 purchases from that every customer that you get, which that doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about how far you can scale an ad account at a certain ROI or cost per conversion, it matters everything. You can now make 50% more money from your account because now you're getting an extra 0.3 customers for every sale that you get, which come at full margin. There was no advertising cost, practically speaking, to get them. It costs a little bit to advertise to your customers, but not much, because it costs a fraction of a penny to have an ad show for a customer later on down the road. So you got that. You also have referrals, of course. What's your average referral rate? If you do a crap job, you can at least expect probably another 0.1 to 0.3 customers for every customer you get, just to the referrals that you'll get from that customer over time. And if you do a referral program where you're actively, again, marketing to people and telling them, hey, if you refer people, we'll give you this, this, or this item, or you get a referral instead of just being a dumb shit, essentially, you ignore the customer who referred you and just think, oh, that's thank you, like in your head. You reach out to them and you say, thank you so much for that referral. I'd really appreciate referrals like that in the future. Make them feel like $1 million. You'll get a ton more referrals. That's just a couple small things that you could do so that the average person doesn't referral 1, but you'll get 1.5 to 2 extra referrals from every customer that you get that refers itself. Given that everybody who refers would refer more if you just went after the people who refer already to get them to refer more, like I was saying, and a few other ways. Anyway, you got to factor that into your ROI if you're smart, because otherwise you can't scale when you don't factor the true value of the customers you got coming in, and your competitor does value them, and then they are able to outbid you for the customers, and now you get a small sliver of the traffic, and you sit around saying, how could they afford to advertise like that? When really they just understood what the value of the damn customer is, and you didn't value, they did. They also spent maybe a little bit more time and effort to get more out of their customers when they buy, and they just leave you in the dust. You also got ad blockers. Okay, so now getting into the actual technical stuff, the reason why these are 50, 58, 75% of the numbers that you actually get in terms of sales that are actually coming through your shopping cart on the first purchase, that is 50% of the purchases through your cart, or that you get from your leads that you're generating from your ad campaign, you only get 50% of it tracked, is because there's ad blockers. You can look this up on Google right now. Roughly 30% of users now, on average, are using ad blockers. If you're using an ad blocker and you've got client-side tracking instead of server-side tracking, it's going to block this tracking code from firing on the user's web browser, which then now will not send data to Facebook and Google as a result. So you got that going on. You got privacy browsers. Brave is just one example where they just simply won't send any tracking data to the ad platforms with client-side track platforms. You also got people switching devices. People love to assume that the customer, when they're on a desktop device, that's the device they're going to buy on. They think, Corey, we got all these people coming to the website. They're only 5% are buying. Why is it? Most people who come to your website aren't looking to buy right now. They're just browsing. Just like a brick and mortar store. Does every single customer who comes into the store buy something? No. A lot of people are just browsing. Especially with more expensive items, people are going to mostly come to your store, look around, and then if they are going to buy, they buy after doing a bit more research online, check the competitors' offers, wait till they get paid, wait till they talk to their wife or husband, whatever. Then they're going to buy. And guess what? When they do go buy, it's on a different device. They were searching initially at work. They bought it at home. They were initially searching while they were at the ball game on their phone. They bought it on a desktop device because their credit card saved on it. You got to also consider that can potentially break your tracking. Even though, technically, if the user is signed in on both devices, the conversion will get linked together, but that assumes they're signed in, which brings me to my other point. If they're on a different device and they're logged out on it, that conversion will not get counted. Because, naturally, person, when they come back to buy again, they're not going to click on an ad again. They're going to go directly to your website domain, or they're going to click your organic result. Not always, but enough to where that conversion's not going to be counted, because they simply bought on a different device while not being signed into the same Google account or Facebook account that they initially started out their customer journey on, or where they clicked on the ad originally. And then you got deleting cookies. Not to say this happens a lot, but if somebody deletes the cookies on their browser, they went to go buy later on, the conversion is not going to be counted, which that's not going to be a big factor unless you're selling something that's more expensive. But if you can bet your ass if you sell something for $1,000, that's going to be a significant factor in and itself, because they're not going to buy on average for a few weeks to a few months. I mean, just to tell you, generally speaking, what makes it so hard to sell more expensive items is the sales cycle length is so big when you're selling these items. I mean, you could expect if you start out spending $100 a day today, it will take 6 months before you really see what your return is going to be on that 100 a day, because what you're doing is you're filling up your pipeline ahead of time. All these people are coming to the site that need to think, they need to think, they need to think. Then you start getting people that from months ago putting their purchases through months later, and so therefore you don't really see what your return is until you've ran it consistently for 6 months. Know this. People like to expect, for whatever reason, when they start advertising, people are just going to start buying instantly. That's not how it works. Furthermore, even in services, a roofing company that doesn't advertise in December when nobody can buy a roof is not smart, because half of the market is going to do research on the roof before it gets warm. Because when it gets warm, they're busy and they know that, and they need something to do during the wintertime. You're going to capture half of the possible sales you could get not advertising over the winter when people are doing research. Those are your factors of why the tracking, what it says in your ad account, is what you are getting there is not at all what you're getting. It's better if you have server-side tracking, but certainly that in itself is also going to be undercounting things. I wanted to put into frame of reference a little bit more what you could expect in your niche, mainly based upon the price of whatever you're selling is on average. So if you sell a bunch of items, just average it out, and then you'll know kind of where you're going to be on the spectrum here. Given that, I looked through many accounts that we have at our agency to figure out where about tracking percentage is. That is the percentage of the sales that we got versus what the ad account actually tracked. That goes for Google specifically. I'm going to talk about Facebook here in a second, but when you're talking about Google search/shopping ads here, you are talking about if you sell something under $100 with client-side tracking, not server-side tracking, 75% of the sales should be tracked that you actually get. If you're between $100 and $200, it should be 65% tracked, $200 to $350, 62% tracked, $350 to $600, 60% tracked, $600 to $1,000, 52% tracked, $1,000 to $2,000 in price, 49% tracked, $2K to $5K, 46% tracked, $5K to $20K, 41% tracked. Now, if you got server-side tracking with your ad account and you're rolling with that, less than $100 of whatever you're selling, you can track 87%. So it's pretty good. 100 to 200 though, you got only 83%. 200 to 350, it's 80%. 350 to 600, it's 77%. 600 to 1,000 is 74%. 1,000 to 2K is 69%. 2K to 5K is 65%. And 5K to 20K is 62%. As you can see here, you're going to get 20-25% more sales data if you sell something moderately expensive and you're using server-side tracking. If you're selling something cheap, you'll still get a good 10% extra conversion data collected using server-side tracking, but it's not nearly as much as when you sell several $100 at least in terms of product cost, in terms of what you're going to get tracked. Now, obviously, if you're doing lead generation also to sell whatever you're selling, server-side tracking is also going to help, by the way, for the same reasons I mentioned before, ad blockers, all the rest of this. So you also nowadays can get a lot of benefit tracking your form itself with server-side tracking. Phone call tracking you can't really do with server-side necessarily. Something also to consider for you guys doing that are still watching here. For that matter, Facebook now, whatever numbers I just covered here, discount 30% from this, and this is what you could expect your Facebook account to track. If you're selling something for under $100, it's not going to be 75% of what you're going to track, which, of the people clicking the ad that you're going to see that buys, it's going to be more like 45%. I know that sounds crazy to believe and understand, but I promise you, the reason for this is the cookie window length is a lot smaller, 7 days, versus on Google, it's 90 days. So you're missing a bunch of sales revenue that way. And not only that, when you interrupt somebody, they're not in the same buying mode as somebody on Google when they're just actively waiting to buy right now. When you're talking about Facebook, the drop-off, when you're talking about more expensive stuff, is going to be immense. Practically speaking, if you're selling a several $1,000 item on Facebook, almost nobody is going to get tracked inside the in-account tracking that you see, which is why you want to optimize your account for MRR. or what stands for marketing efficiency ratio. What this is you take the total sales you have coming into your company divided by your total ad budget, and this is your MER ratio. What you need to do as a business owner or manager is you need to find that MER ratio that's acceptable to your company, that you're going to make a profit, not so high that it's going to make your ads hard to scale, but you're making a reasonable profit. And then what your job is then is to get to that MER ratio initially on the ad spend you have now, figure out a way to get efficient. Then once you finally get there, you're going to constantly try to spend more money on ad spend while maintaining that MER ratio. So you may need a 3-to-1 MER ratio. You're at 2-to-1. You do everything you can on your current ad spend to get it up to a 3-to-1. Then you're going to try to spend 15% more ad budget than you had before, knowing your MER ratio is going to go down under 3 again, but you're going to work like hell to get it up to at least a 3. Then you're going to spend 15% more on raise your ad budget 15% more again, and then try to raise your sales 15%, and then keep doing that again and again and again. And this is how I've actually built $10 million a year companies starting from nothing, one step at a time, and starting with a $100 a day budget. Easy to do if you know the strategies that work, you set up your tracking systems right, and you constantly keep working to roll out more campaigns and then optimize the ones you have. It's not rocket science. All the information that you need for that is on this channel, of which, if you haven't subscribed yet, you absolutely should. I've got the best information. If you want to become a multi-millionaire running ads for your business, you want to get in tune with what I'm saying on this channel, because ultimately I've done this over and over again, and you don't have to learn for yourself. I've got a great blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. Beyond that, if you have any questions about anything I'm covering here, or any marketing related question for that matter, you can reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. You also can leave me in the comment section. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment section. I also can be reached through my Discord group. Link up to that Discord is in the video description. If you reach out to me through my site, I offer coaching and consulting. I also offer full-on PPC management services where I'll manage your Google, Facebook, whatever ads that you want to run. I'll not charge a management fee until I can raise your profitability a certain minimum amount. This is our star golden offer that we offer at our agency, of which no other agency offers this. And I can give you an estimate of how much I can get for you if you reach out to me. In addition to this, I also have ad templates available. If you are in a market that I've been in before, I can tell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your niche market. And I can tell you the results you're going to get with it, as I've already gotten those results in another city or country that you're in. And I've got e-commerce and lead generation templates and hundreds of different templates ultimately. Going back to what I was saying before here, if you're talking about display campaigns like Google Display Network campaigns or demand gen campaigns, if you're not doing lead gen or lead generation, where it's easy to track that pretty well, because at least the person is apt to respond right away, and then you can capture the click ID and then use that click ID to upload your sales to the ad platform, you could pretty much expect that whatever numbers that I mentioned here, discount it by 70%, and that's going to be the actual number that your campaign is going to show in terms of its tracking. Why is that? Because very few people see a banner ad. I mean, think about this yourself. When's the last time you saw a banner ad and said, damn it, I love that product. I'm going to buy it right now. I'm going to stop reading this article. I'm going to get my wallet out. I'm going to buy this product now. Not later, but now. This does not happen. This, though, is still valuable to your business because it educates people about the product, about the solution, and when they're ready to buy, the next time, which for the most part, if you're selling lawnmowers, you can target people who are in market for a lawnmower. It's worth doing. And then all you got to do is just sit around and wait for that person to buy that lawnmower a week from now, a month from now, whatever. And now you're just in the running for the lawnmower purchase. Or at least you made it statistically likely, more statistically likely that they'll buy that lawnmower from you versus somebody else because they saw that ad. And that's where the return comes in. And that doesn't barely ever, or hardly, I should say, show up in the conversion data in your ad account. So you got to consider this, even though it does work. The way that you measure this, by the way, you got your MER ratio, but you also have something called conversion lift testing, where you implement a strategy like that, new display campaign, you see how much your total sales go up after implementing that one campaign, know how much of an impact that had. This is something you got to do. Remarketing is another one. You do remarketing, it doesn't look like on paper it helps that much, but it does. You use conversion lift testing to verify that. Anyway, search and shopping campaigns track horribly. try display campaign, of which most people never even run display campaigns because they don't see a return because they don't know the information I'm giving you here. And when you are in a market and you're the only one doing any kind of display ads, marketing to every single person who's recently typed in buy a lawnmower when you sell a lawnmower, you're going to seem like a big brand in the space because they'll saw your advertising before they go to buy. And then when the moment of truth comes, when they go to buy a lawnmower, because they can't delay the purchase anymore and they know it, you've now increased the likelihood that they're going to buy from you 2 to 3 times now, which is how this all works. Anyway, hopefully this makes sense. I wanted to go through all this so you understand ROAS versus actual ROAS, what you got in your account being not what you actually get, and for all the reasons why. Hopefully that made a lot of sense for you. This will help you put you on the right track with putting yourself in position to scale your account finally, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.